What is up, baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel for the next episode of Ryan's Ghost. I am your host, Salbo the Stat Guy. Now, with 2 months remaining in the Major League season, I wanted to talk about, I guess you could say, the state of the union as far as baseball goes. There's been talk right now of a work stoppage that might happen at the end of the season. The owners are all up in arms because they want a salary cap, this old argument again. And I'm old enough to remember the strike back in 1981 where they lost about 50 games during the season. Also, everybody remembers the strike back in 1994, which canceled the World Series and kind of bled over into 95 a little bit. But the owners just can't seem to help themselves, and they've been shelling out a ton of money and making basically just bad deals and bad contracts for the last 10, 15 years. And now they want a salary cap once again, it feels like, to kind of bail them out. But they just need to start spending their money wiser. And I don't know if that will ever happen, but something's got to change because, like I said, I don't know if baseball will handle another work stoppage because it kind of fall behind in popularity right now as far as the NFL is a little bit obviously more popular. College football, you have the NBA, you have the other leagues as well. So baseball, I don't think can afford to have another strike, or definitely can't afford to have something go as far as a work stoppage. So they need to figure something out. They need to kind of figure it out fast. But as far as the owners go, once again, their spending is out of control, and the Dodgers at this point are basically just printing money. Okay, but once again, spending money doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And I can't believe baseball has not learned their lesson with all the examples that you can kind of cite from the past. But one current example right now I'd like to make is the Tampa Bay Rays are currently in first place in the American League East. They have the best record in the American League, and their payroll right now is 28th in the majors. Okay, they're just a really well-run organization, and they always put a good product out on the field, even though none of their fans show up to see it anyway. But if you look at the Rays right now, like I said, they have the best record in the American League. They're first in average. They're hitting 258 as a team. The closest team to them, the Texas Rangers, are hitting 247, so an 11-point difference, which is kind of unheard of. They're first in hits. They're first in on-base percentage. And on the pitching side, they're fourth in ERA, and they're first in WHIP. So their philosophy is throw strikes, fastball, changeup, and they've had a lot of success in the past, developing young pitchers, guys like David Price, and David Shields, and Matt Garza, and Jeremy Hellickson, and Matt Moore. They definitely had some good pitchers in the past. And right now, they have McClanahan, who I think just kind of went on the DL. They have Rasmussen, and they signed a free agent named Nick Martinez, who right now is about 35, 36. Signed him on a one-year deal because basically nobody else wanted the guy. And he's 10-3 with a 2.77 ERA. So for as much money as the Yankees spend on Rodon and Cole and Max Fried, the Rays are just a better team right now. And they basically spent a fraction of what the Yankees spent on their pitching staff. So like I said, it just kind of shows you philosophy sometimes means a lot more than just spending money. If you have a well-run organization, chances are you're going to be successful. So if we look back at the last 10 years, and of course analytics is all the rage, and I think it's really kind of starting to hurt baseball. But the game is changing, and it's not really, I don't think, changing for the better. So if we look back at the last 10 years, since 2016, if we look at offenses in general, teams average 4.48 runs scored per game back in 2016. And that number has risen to 4.83 in 2019. That was the highest. And at its lowest, it was 4.28 back in 2022, which oddly enough was the first year the DH in the National League, and that scoring actually decreased. So, go figure there. I guess the National League wasn't producing, really good DHs. It took them a couple years to kind of catch up. But home runs have kind of fluctuated as well. Back in 2016, Major League teams averaged 187 home runs. Then it went up to 204 in 2017, then down to 186, then back up to 226 in 2019 when the Major League set a record. They hit like 6,700 home runs. But then after COVID, home runs had kind of started to drop off. Teams averaged 198 in 2021, down from 226. But then 2022, 174, then 196, then 182, and then last year was 188. Batting averages kind of fell as well. Back in 2016 and 17, the league averaged 255. Then it went to 248 in 2018, back up to 252 in 2019. But then after COVID, it's been 244, 243, 248, 243, and 245. So it's kind of stuck in the 240s. It can't seem to get out for the last 5 years. Walks have been about the same. Teams averaged 503 walks in 2016, and that was 513 in 2025. And Ks have kind of gone up little by little, but then kind of fell back down. Teams averaged 1,299 strikeouts in 2016, and that peaked at 1,427 in 2019, obviously with all the home runs. But then it's fallen down. Teams last year averaged 1,355 strikeouts. So far in 2026, through the first 4 months of the year, teams are averaging 244, so right in between 243 and 245, and there's 2 months left, so we'll have to wait and see, but it'll probably be about the same as it was last year. If we dig a little deeper, in 2016 you had 4 players with 200 or more hits in a season. 2017 it was 4 again. 2018 nobody did it. 2019 you had 2 players. Obviously nobody did it in COVID, but then in 2021 and 2022, 0 players had 200 hits in a season. Then you had 3 players do it in 2023, 2 do it in 24, but then 0 again in 2025. So, it was a 200 hit season, could become extinct as well. As far as batters hitting 300, back in 2016 and 2017, you had 25 players hit 300 or better, but then that went down to 16 in 2018, back up to 2000 in 2019, and went back up to 19. 2021, though, it went to 14, then 11, then 9, and then the last 2 seasons, only 7 players hit 300 in a season, which to me is just kind of unacceptable. That just shows you how bad hitting has gotten in the last decade. And currently in 2026, only 8 players are hitting 300 or more. And strikeouts started to rise and then kind of tapered off a little bit. But back in 2016, you had 139 players strike out 100 or more times. And that number went to 140, then to 153, then it hit a high of 161 in 2019, the year of the long ball. But then in 2021, 147, then it went to 152, then it shot up to 169, 157, and then last year 153 players struck out 100 or more times. And in that span, you had 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 times where a player had 200 or more strikeouts in a season. So once again, strikeouts are all the rage, home runs are all the rage, but hitting is definitely suffering, and I think something needs to happen. Now, as far as pitching during that span in the last 10 years, the ERA has fluctuated. It was a low of 4.07 in 2024, and there was a high of 4.49 in 2019, the year of the home run. So ERAs are kind of stay consistent. Actually, the lowest was, 2022. The first year the DH was in the National League. It was only 3.96, the ERA in baseball. So complete games have also just kind of started to fall as well. You had 83 complete games back in 2016, but then last year you only had 29, and the year before you only had 28. So to put that in context, in 1972, Gaylord Perry had 29 complete games in one season, and every team in baseball had 29 complete games last year. So it just kind of shows you also how far pitching has fallen as well. And if we dig a little deeper, 2016 you had 3 pitchers win 20 games in a season. There was 0 in 17. 18 and 19 saw 2 pitchers win 20 or more games. In 2021 and 2022 and 2023, only 1 pitcher did it each season. And you had 0 pitchers win 20 games the last 2 years. So once again, another category going by the wayside. 20 win seasons seem to be disappearing as well. Now, pitchers, teams that have had, pitchers start 30 or more games in a season. 2016, you had 62 pitchers who started 30 or more games, but that number fell to 46, and then 56, then 59, then all the way down to 41 in 2021. There was 43 pitchers in 2022, then you had 44. It's come up a little bit the last 2 years, 51 and 53, so hopefully that means pitchers have been able to stay healthier so they can start 30 or more games. But 200 innings pitched, once again, in 2016 and 17, 15 pitchers did it. 2018 it went down to 13. 2019 back up to 15. But in 2021, only 4 pitchers pitched 200 or more innings. So it went from 15 in 2019 all the way down to 4 in 2021, which to me is kind of silly as well. 2022 went up to 8, then back down to 5, then 4, and then last year only 3 pitchers had 200 innings in a season. And like I said, that's just unacceptable if you ask me. Starting pitchers should be able to pitch 200 innings in a season, especially if they're any good. And you had pitchers, or starters I should say, with an ERA under 3. 8 of them did it in 2016 and 17. That went up to 12 in 2018. 2019 went down to 9. Then you had 8 of them do it in 2021. You had a spike in 2022, 19 pitchers had an ERA under 3 in 2022, but then that went from 19 all the way down to 5 in 2023, back up to 9 in 2024, and then last year you actually had 12 pitchers with an ERA of 3 or under. And in that time span, you had 6 pitchers with an ERA under 2. Currently in 2026, the league ERA right now is a 4.19. There have been 12 complete games and 7 shutouts in 4 months in the entire Major League Baseball. So to me, that just tells me that pitch counts are just getting to the point where it's just getting ridiculous, okay? Teams are taxing their bullpens a lot more, and it's just bad baseball, okay? You should have a starting pitcher that can pitch into the 6th or 7th inning, you know? Guys should not have 100 pitches thrown by the 5th inning. That's just not smart pitching. Now, if we look at some of the storylines from 2026 so far, a couple of ones I'd like to mention. The first one is Juan Soto, who's currently on a DL for the New York Mets. He's making $51 million this year. Okay, let me repeat that. He's making $51 million this year. Okay, he is in the second year of a 15-year, $765 million contract he signed before the 2025 season. Okay, now he can opt out after 2029, and just a bad contract. I mean, Juan Soto's a good player, but he's not the kind of player that's going to carry a team, okay, and win a World Series with them. I just don't see him as that way. You know, in 2019 with the Nationals, he obviously had some help on that team, you know, when they won the World Series. But right now, with the Mets, are just not a good team, and they're just overpaying for the guy, and it's just, I think, just a mess right now. And there's talk that he's not the best guy in the clubhouse either, because they gave him all these special perks for his family and stuff. So it sounds like he's kind of turning into a prima donna like Barry Bonds was. Now, Kyle Tucker, another ridiculous contract given to him by the Dodgers in the offseason. This year, he's earning $33 million. And for the $33 million, the Dodgers are getting a .237 average, .333 on base, and a .372 slugging with 9 homers and 51 RBIs. Next year, Kyle Tucker is scheduled to make $81.9 million. Okay? He's not even the best player on his team, and he's making $81.9 million next year. And just to show you how ridiculous that contract is, okay, $30 million of that is deferred, with $10 million annually from 2027 to 2029, paid in 10 installments of $3 million from December 1st, 2036 to 2045. I mean, what the hell is that, pardon my French? I mean, like I said, just a ridiculous amount of money being spent on the guy who's just at best an average player. I mean, he had a couple of average seasons in the past, but nothing that would enable him to deserve that kind of money. Like I said, the Dodgers are just printing money at this point. And don't even get me started on Ohtani's contract. That's another one that's just flat out ridiculous. Now, Cal Raleigh is a catcher for the Seattle Mariners. And he signed a contract extension at the beginning of the 2024 season, which paid him $105 million over 6 years. And he didn't disappoint in 2024. He had 34 home runs, 100 RBIs. He only hit 220 though, but he had a pretty good season. And then in 2025, things got better for him. He had 60 homers, 125 RBIs, and his batting average went up to 247. But now, 2026, I mean, the guy forgot how to hit a baseball, okay? Through the first 4 months of the season, this guy's hitting 164 with 11 home runs and 36 RBIs. He strikes out 32% of his plate appearances. So, I mean, holy cow. How do you forget how to hit a baseball? How do you go from 60 home runs to 11? It is just unbelievable, okay? What else seems to be an issue in baseball? Well, Tommy John surgeries have been on the rise and are pretty much all the rage these days because, like I said, pitchers are throwing 100 miles an hour and your body's not meant to do something like that. And right now, 33 to 35% of all pitchers on a major league roster have had Tommy John surgery at least once. So a third of the pitchers in the league. Okay, currently there are about 43 pitchers on teams' injured list because of Tommy John surgery. So can we stop training pitchers to throw so hard and train them to pitch smarter, train them to change speeds and disrupt the batter's timing, kind of like a Greg Maddux did? Because that's the way I think these guys are going to be successful while saving their arms at the same time. Because this trend cannot continue, okay? You just have way too many pitchers getting hurt, so they need to figure something out because right now what they're doing, it's just not working. And when you look at young pitchers like Cam Schlitter for the Yankees, who's having a great season, Paul Skeens, Jacob Mizorowski, who threw the ball 105 miles an hour. I mean, just how long before these guys blow their arms out? Because it's just a matter of when it happens, because it surely is going to happen. And so, like I said, teams need to be smarter with their pitchers. You know, if you have a guy who throws 100 miles an hour, maybe put him in the bullpen. So that way he only pitches 1 or 2 innings, and maybe that'll help save his arm. Because like I said, the more these guys throw at 100 miles an hour, the more likely they are to be hurt. Now, turning our attention to the Yankees. I've been a Yankee fan my whole life, but I think it's finally time for the Yankees to kind of cut ties with Giancarlo Stanton. Okay, ever since they got him from a trade with the Marlins in 2018, it just has not worked out. Okay, the guy cannot stay healthy. He's basically had 1 or 2 productive seasons, and the rest of the time he's just earning just a ton of money for basically nothing. Okay, this year he's making $29 million. He's got hurt in April after hitting 3 homers and 14 RBIs with a 256 average, and they don't even know if he's going to play again this year. So I mean, just a really big disappointment, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of A-Rod's contract when the Yankees took that on. You know, it's just, they were a good team before him. They really didn't need him. You know, the Yankees had just come off an ALCS appearance in 2017 with Judge. That was his rookie season. So they really didn't need to add a contract like Giancarlo Stanton. And it obviously, like I said, I don't think it's worked out well for them. So I think it's time to finally cut ties with him. I'm sure he's a great guy in the clubhouse and he's a leader, but like I said, his production is just not it's just not meeting what he's being paid. Fernando Tatis had a breakthrough year with the Padres back in 2019. He finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting, and then the Padres rewarded him with another ridiculous contract in 2021 in February. They signed him to a 14-year deal for $340 million. And, you know, the first year of his deal, he rewarded him. He had 42 home runs. He had 97 ribbies, 282 he hit. But then, of course, the wheels fell off. Okay, in 2022, he got hurt. He got suspended as well. And ever since then, he just has not been the same player. When he came back in 2023, I mean, he had a couple of decent years, okay, but currently he's making $20 million this year, and he has 8 home runs and 49 RBIs, and he's hitting 285, which aren't too bad of numbers, but the fact that he didn't hit his first home run until the end of May, I mean, the guy forgot how to hit the long ball. How do you go from 42 home runs in 1 year to 8 in the current season? And he's scheduled to make $25 million in 2027 and 2028. And then from 29 to 34, he's scheduled to make $36.7 million. And there's even trade right now that they might try to move him at the trade deadline. But it's like, what team is going to want to trade for him and take that salary on him? I really hope the Yankees don't do it, because he's definitely not worth it. But like I said, sign these guys to these ridiculous contracts, and they're just not getting the production in return. And I think that owners need to stop signing these or offering these ridiculously long contracts to these players. Now, another guy in a similar boat, Jarren Duran. He's an outfielder for the Red Sox. He had his breakout year in 2024. He led the majors with 48 doubles. He had 14 triples, 21 homers, 75 ribbies. He had 285. Then in 2025, he hit 41 doubles. He had 13 triples, which led the AL, 16 homers, 84 RBIs. He had 256. And now in 2026, once again, much like Cal Raleigh, the guy forgot how to hit. Okay, right now he currently has 13 home runs, 54 RBIs. He's got 10 doubles and only 3 triples, and he's hitting 195. And there's talk that he's kind of a bad guy in the clubhouse, so there's talk that they may try to move him at the trade deadline, but I don't think he's going to be back next year. He'll be a free agent at the end of the year. But once again, an example of a guy who just seems like he forgot how to hit. You know, I mean, I know guys go through dry spells and stuff, but I mean, if you can't even hit 200, maybe you should go down to the minors and kind of work on things. You know, I mean, I know it's getting more and more acceptable that guys hit 200 and strike out so much if they can hit a lot of home runs. But like I said, to me, it's just bad baseball. Now, speaking of that, if you look at a player like Luis Ariz, who's a second baseman for the Giants, right now he should be the most sought-after guy in the league. I mean, I wish the Yankees would trade for him, but he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. But why he isn't on the radar of more and more teams, I just have no idea. I mean, he's basically the 2020 version of Wade Boggs, okay? So far, the guy has won 3 batting titles. He's leading the major leagues right now in average with a 328 average. And he just doesn't strike out. He struck out 21 times so far this year. He only struck out 21 times last year. But I would love to see the Yankees get this guy and put him at the top of the lineup, because he actually is a guy who puts the ball in play and can actually get base hits. You know, why more teams aren't after this guy, or why more teams aren't training their players in the minors to be more like him, I will never know. Because like I said, the guy hits the ball and he doesn't strike out, kind of like the opposite of what's going on right now in today's baseball. Now, if I can talk expansion real quick, can we finally admit that this experiment called the Colorado Rockies has just not worked out as well as teams thought it would? Because I know playing in Colorado was tough because of the thin air, but I mean, this is just a cursed franchise. I mean, gone are the days of Larry Walker and Dante Bichette, Vinny Castillo, Todd Helton, Troy Lewitzki. Rockies were actually a fun team to watch at one point. But right now, they're just an awful team. And the problem, I guess in a nutshell, is if you look at their top two starters this year, a guy named Michael Lorenzen and Kyle Freeland. Okay, right now, Michael Lorenzen is 3 wins, 9 losses. He has a 6.54 ERA in 22 starts. Kyle Freeland is even worse, 2-10. He leads the majors in losses, and he has a 7.34 ERA in 19 starts. Okay, Kyle Freeland at home in Colorado, 2-3 this year with a 6.99 ERA. Away is even worse, 0-7, 8.29 ERA. Okay, Michael Lorenzen at home in Colorado this year, 1-4, 8.34 ERA. Okay, on the road, 2-5, 5.16 ERA. I mean, could you imagine being the Rockies offense right now and realizing when those guys take the mound, you basically have to score 9 or 10 runs to win the game because they're just going to get hammered every time they pitch? I mean, those guys probably have PTSD right now because they just get bombed every time they pitch. And I mean, that's kind of a microcosm, like I said, for the Rockies for their entire career. Because if we look back, the Rockies came into the league in 1993, and throughout the career, they won 45% of their games. Okay, they won 1 pennant in 2007. That was the year they made the World Series and lost to the Red Sox. They made the playoffs 5 times. But in their 33 seasons, they finished in 4th or 5th place 22 times. So not exactly working out. They can't get free agents to go there. They can't make good trades. Nobody wants to play in Colorado, so I don't know what they do. But right now, they're just a very abysmal franchise. All right, if we look at the Marlins, in their 33 years in the league, the Marlins have a 46% winning percentage, so 1 point better than the Rockies. They've won, obviously, 2 World Series in 97 and 2003 when they basically, signed all the good free agents and they bought a World Series. They've had 4 playoff appearances, but they finished last place 11 times and in 4th place 7 times. And they actually had a name change in 2012. They became the Miami Marlins instead of the Florida Marlins, but it didn't really help them out. From 93 to 2011, the Marlins won 47% of their games, but then they changed the name to the Miami Marlins, and they've won 44% of their games, so it didn't really help them out too much. The next expansion team of the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've won 49% of their games since they came into the league in 1998. They've won 2 pennants in 2001 and 2023, 1 World Series. They've made the playoffs 7 times, and they finished in last place or 4th place 11 times. So a little bit better than the Marlins and the Rockies. And Tampa Bay, probably the best run expansion team. Since they came into the league in 98, they've won 49% of the games as well, same as the Rockies. They've won 2 pennants, 2008 and 2020. They've made the playoffs 9 times, have yet to win a World Series. And they finished in last place 10 times, and they finished in 4th place 5 times. But if you look at them, it's kind of a tale of 2 cities, because from 1998 to 2007, Tampa Bay were called the Devil Rays, and they won 39% of their games, and they finished in last place 9 out of 10 seasons. But in 2008, they kind of flipped the switch as an organization. Their young players started to develop. The pitching definitely blossomed. And from 2008 to 2026, the Tampa Bay Rays, as they're called now, have won 54% of their games, and they've won 4 AL East titles. So they definitely have turned it around, and I think more teams should kind of model the Tampa Bay Rays because they obviously know what they're doing. And in conclusion, currently in the American League right now, there are 4 teams that are at least 2 games over 500. You have the Rays, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the White Sox. You have 4 teams that are 500 or 1 game over. That would be the Cleveland Guardians, Minnesota Twins, Houston Astros, and the Texas Rangers. And then you have 7 teams that are under 500. So a lot of parity there, okay? And in the National League, it's a little bit better. You have 8 teams over 500. The Atlanta Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Marlins, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Marlins are 1 game over 500. And then you have 7 teams like the American League that are under 500. So 14 out of 30 teams in baseball right now are under 500. Like I said, salary caps are supposed to level the playing field, but the playing field right now is kind of level if you ask me. Just a lot of mediocre teams and a lot of just bad baseball. So please leave a like, please leave a comment. Let me know what your solution is as far as the ills of baseball. Do you think a salary cap will help? Do you think teams just to make need to make better decisions. Owners need to spend their money better, and teams need to make some, organizational changes, because if there's a work stoppage right now, I think it's going to really hurt baseball, and its popularity is already on the wane. College football, the NFL, the NBA, definitely more popular right now than Major League Baseball. So I think a work stoppage would definitely be the worst thing that can happen right now. But please let me know what you think. Let me know what your solutions would be for solving some of the problems in baseball right now. Until next time, I'm Salbo the Stat Guy. Take it easy.